welcome our speaker, Mr. Sam Timbrook. I'm so excited and pleased that he is able to join us this morning. He has a master's of education and counseling. He also has a doctorate of ministry with a focus on conflict management and has spent 24 years in public school special services. He also has spent 40 plus years as a pastor, and he is a board certified master mental health life coach. And as you'll hear from him, he is a parent of a child with many special needs. So I am so pleased to be able to introduce Mr. Sam Timbrook for our presentation this morning.
Well, thank you all for allowing me to be a part of this very special program. When I learned of it and in partnership with the Association of Missouri Mediators, I was just thrilled because being the parent of a child with special needs, I know that there are times we need maybe a third party to just come in and help us to work through some issues and things like that. For those of you who are what I call parenting again, whether you're grandparents or aunts or uncles or other people who are raising full or part-time, whatever that means, someone else's children, it is such a struggle. And we'll talk more about it later when we actually focus on mediation. But often if you're raising someone else's children, a lot of the conflict is because of those unspoken assumptions. Well, I thought you were going to do such and such. No, I thought you were going to do such and such. For example, today, some of you probably didn't think you were going to have children at home at their school age, and you had to come up with what are we going to do this day and those kinds of things. But being the parent of a child with special needs, my child, although he was age 40 when he passed away, he was special needs from the moment of birth. Spent the first 3 months of his life in intensive care. And since then, until his death, he, we lost count of how many surgeries and how many therapies and special people we went to for help. He was in special education all of his years of public education. We were very pleased with his program, so we kept him in the program as long as we could, and that is until you turn age 21. But anyway, I believe that I didn't understand about parenting a child with special needs, and in this case, whether you're parenting or parenting again or whatever, and by parenting again, I mean you're raising grandchildren or nieces or nephews or things like that. One thing I did not understand with my child because of his special needs is that my wife and I were going through grief. When my son was, the special needs son is the youngest of two boys. When my special needs son was 5 years old, my father died. And I recall my dad was the first death in the family of anyone real close to me. I recall that the feelings I had at my dad's death, I kept saying to myself, I have felt this way before. Where? How? And I talked with my older brother, and he says, no, Dad's the first death we've had in the family and things like that. And through the help of a school counselor who later became a mediator like myself, he helped me realize that I had been going through grief with my child with special needs, and I didn't realize it. And as I grew in that, I became more and more aware every day that I would grieve every time he should be doing something because of his chronological age, but he couldn't do it because of his disability. And I found that I was going through the entire grieving process. By the way, let me quickly say this. There's a lot of attention given to Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's study on the grieving process, but even she has said that she never intended for it to be a step 1, step 2, step 3, and if you could work through those steps, then you've got it made. Someone else told me one time that grieving, especially with a child, is kind of like riding the roller coaster in the dark. But anyway, every time my son should have been doing something because of his chronological age, and he couldn't because of his disability, I'd go through the whole grieving experience. I won't call it a process. the whole grieving experience again. The shock, for example, even though he was in intensive care for 3 months, and even though he started having therapy soon thereafter, when he turned 5, I grieved more then than I did when he was born. Because in my mind, every 5-year-old in the world was going to kindergarten except my child. Now, yes, he qualifies for special services, and he went to a small private school, but I just was devastated. He couldn't go to regular school, whatever that is. And we had some friends who had children going to kindergarten, and they talk about what they're doing and things like that. And I went through the whole grieving process. You see, up to that point, we had been told, even by the Mayo Clinic, that he was delayed. The school started talking about disability. But anyway, I guess what I'm saying is, you as parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, who is ever raising a child, if that child has special needs, you may not realize it, but you're going through a grieving process. And that grieving process happens over and over and over again. I remember when my son was in his upper teens and he had to have ear surgery. And we went to a follow-up visit after the ear surgery. And the nurse was just out of nursing school, and she was 21. And I was thinking about, when my child is 21, will he be able to have a job? Will he be able to be a nurse, be a truck driver, be a farmer, whatever? And then I went through it again because I realized he would. So I say all of that to get to this point. It's very possible you're going through grief and you don't know it. It helped me